Something catastrophic is happening right now in the Red Sea, and the mainstream media is completely missing the real story. The United States has just ordered its most expensive, most advanced warship directly into a heavily armed kill zone. But here is the secret nobody is saying out loud. That ship is already dying from the inside out. We are watching a $13.3 billion symbol of American supremacy sail straight into a trap set by Iranian-backed proxies. This is not just a routine military deployment. This is a slow-motion collapse of global maritime dominance. If you want to understand the hidden moves shaping our world before they hit the headlines, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because what I am about to show you changes everything. Let me show you how this nightmare actually started. As of today, the situation has crossed the line from strategic posturing to absolute desperation. The USS Gerald R. Ford is supposed to be the undisputed crown jewel of the United States Navy. It was designed to project unrivaled power across the globe. Instead, it is projecting severe structural failure. The ship has been at sea for 256 days. The Trump administration has officially bypassed standard naval safety protocols and maintenance schedules. They have ordered this specific vessel to push through a grueling 11-month deployment. If that happens, it will shatter the post-Vietnam record held by the USS Abraham Lincoln. It approaches the all-time combat record set during the Vietnam War. This is a breaking point, and the ship is already breaking. Internal reports and leaked Navy memos reveal a crisis that sounds impossible for a modern military. The high-tech vacuum sewage system on the Ford is practically entirely compromised. We are talking about 205 massive plumbing breakdowns in a span of just 4 days. Saltwater and waste are creating catastrophic calcium buildups deep inside the ship. Raw sewage is backing up into living quarters. Sailors are reporting wait times of nearly an hour just to find a working toilet. The Navy is spending $400,000 at a time on acid flushes just to keep the pipes from permanently fusing shut. But these are only temporary fixes. This is not just a minor inconvenience. It is a catastrophic failure of basic infrastructure on a floating city of 4,600 exhausted personnel. You cannot fight a 21st century proxy war with a mentally shattered crew. Hull maintenance technicians are working brutal 19-hour shifts right now. They are not preparing for combat operations. They are fighting a losing battle just to keep the ship habitable. These sailors were explicitly told they were going home. In January, they were the lead ship operating near Venezuela, instrumental in the capture of Nicolas Maduro. They genuinely thought they had punched their ticket back to Virginia. Families back home had homecoming boxes packed and waiting. Then, the orders changed in a single heartbeat. Washington issued a sudden, devastating U-turn. The administration demanded the ship turn around in the mid-Atlantic. They were ordered to steam directly back to the Mediterranean, and now, they are being pushed even further south. The psychological toll of this reversal is devastating. Internal leaks indicate a massive retention crisis is brewing below deck. Nearly 40% of junior sailors on this carrier are heavily considering walking away from the military entirely. They are being pushed far beyond human limits to support Operation Epic Fury. The crew is working relentless 12 to 16-hour daily shifts just to keep fighter jets in the sky. And now, this physically degrading fleet, manned by a broken crew, is being ordered to act as the primary fire brigade for an administration obsessed with projecting a tough guy image to the rival powers of the world. But the image is an illusion, and the enemy knows exactly what is happening. Sending a malfunctioning supercarrier into the Red Sea right now is a mathematically bankrupt suicide mission. The Houthi forces in Yemen, backed entirely by Iranian intelligence and weapons, do not need to sink the USS Ford to achieve victory. They only need to keep it trapped. The Red Sea is a remarkably narrow geographical choke point. It is an active, highly volatile shooting gallery. Washington has deliberately anchored a massive, struggling target right in the crosshairs of drone swarms and anti-ship ballistic missiles. The proxy forces are fighting a calculated war of attrition, and they are winning the math. A Houthi suicide drone costs roughly $20,000 to manufacture. To shoot that specific drone out of the sky, the American destroyers escorting the Ford must fire interceptor missiles that cost between $2 and $4 million each. Every single day this broken carrier sits in that choke point, billions of taxpayer dollars are vaporized into the ocean. The United States military-industrial complex simply cannot manufacture replacement missiles fast enough to keep up with the mass production of cheap proxy drones. Operation Epic Fury is already costing the United States roughly $779 million every single day. A massive portion of that is just the wear and tear cost of keeping the failing systems running at absolute maximum capacity in a highly corrosive saltwater war zone. This leads directly to the most terrifying reality of this extended deployment. The American escort destroyers are rapidly burning through their outer defensive missile screens. Their interceptor magazines are running dangerously low. Soon, these multi-billion-dollar ships will be forced to rely on their absolute last line of defense, the automated phalanx close-in weapon systems. If the outer missile screen fails completely, completely, the ship is exposed to direct impacts. You are putting an exhausted radar operator staring at a screen after a 19-hour shift in charge of spotting incoming hypersonic signatures. Human error is inevitable under these conditions. When a crew is this physically and emotionally drained, critical mistakes happen. Interceptors are loaded too slowly. Incoming targets are misidentified. It only takes one lucky strike. One hypersonic missile slipping through the weakened defense grid of a glitching, deteriorating ship. If that $13 billion carrier takes a direct hit, or if an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer is crippled, the long-standing illusion of American maritime invincibility vanishes instantly. The geopolitical fallout would be immediate, violent, and completely irreversible. It would permanently embolden adversaries and immediately spark a full-scale regional war as Washington scrambles to violently avenge the historic embarrassment. While the administration focuses all of its attention, naval assets, and money on a narrow strip of water in the Middle East, the rest of the world is actively exploiting the massive distraction. This is exactly how global power shifts happen in real time. You do not need a direct confrontation when your primary rival is willingly bleeding themselves dry. Beijing is watching this unfold with absolute glee. With the premier assets of the United States Navy bogged down fighting cheap drones, the Pacific Ocean is left wide open. China is quietly and aggressively militarizing its surrounding waters. They are securing global supply chains and expanding their maritime footprint without firing a single shot at the Americans. Russia is simultaneously reaping a massive economic victory. The Red Sea is a vital artery for global trade. With it effectively choked off by persistent proxy attacks, commercial shipping is paralyzed. Global energy prices are surging as the threat to Middle Eastern oil infrastructure grows. Moscow's oil revenues are skyrocketing as a direct result. They are completely bypassing Western sanctions, all while Washington is simply too distracted by its Middle Eastern quagmire to focus on Eastern Europe. Iran and the Axis of Resistance have achieved something historically unprecedented. They have established a new era of asymmetric deterrence. They have successfully tied down the most advanced military force on Earth with incredibly cheap technology. They have proven that American military might is financially unsustainable in a prolonged conflict. They are draining the Pentagon budget and humiliating Washington on the global stage without ever engaging in a direct, conventional war. And the traditional allies are noticing the shift. They are running for the exits. European nations are furious about the broader implications, actively denying airspace and distancing themselves from what they view as a reckless, illegal escalation by the current administration. But the most brilliant and ruthless geopolitical pivot is happening right next door. Canada is executing an absolute masterstroke. While Washington burns billions of dollars in the desert and the sea, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Canadian trade officials are quietly building an economic firewall. They know the American economy is about to take a massive, unavoidable hit from this prolonged conflict. Canada is aggressively breaking free from the traditional American economic chokehold. They are signing strategic partnerships with Japan. They are securing new trade deals with the European Union. They are even making quiet, highly calculated arrangements with China. Canada is retaliating strategically. If their southern neighbor is going to burn itself to the ground in a forever war, Canada is going to secure its own future. They are securing independent supply chains and keeping their heads down. They are letting America isolate itself on the world stage. By positioning Canada as the stable, reliable North American partner, they are stealing global leverage right out from under Washington's nose. Meanwhile, the domestic consequences for the United States will be incredibly brutal. A long war in the Red Sea means shipping companies must permanently route their massive cargo vessels all the way around the continent of Africa. This immediately doubles transit times. It drastically increases fuel costs. Global supply chains are going to snap under the pressure. The cost of shipping will skyrocket, and that cost will be passed directly to the consumer. The price of food, electronics, oil, and basic goods inside the United States is about to explode. The American working class is going to bear the agonizing economic pain of this ego-driven deployment every single time they go to the grocery store. The Federal Reserve will panic as global inflation spikes uncontrollably. This is the perfect recipe for a severe domestic recession right in the middle of a political term. When dead American sailors start coming home from a conflict with no clear objective, while gas hits record highs, the domestic backlash will be violent and historically unprecedented. Gulf states like Saudi Arabia and the UAE are already realizing they bet on the wrong horse. The security umbrella they relied on for decades is full of holes. If Washington cannot protect its own malfunctioning warships, it certainly cannot protect foreign oil refineries from drone swarms. The clock is ticking, and the endgame is approaching incredibly fast. The USS Ford Strike Group is currently preparing for its Suez Canal transit. It is moving directly into the southern front to launch shorter-range strikes against Iranian-backed assets. But the underlying interceptor crisis cannot be ignored by military planners. Within weeks, the fleet will rapidly deplete its remaining inventory of defensive missiles. the administration will face a terrifying, impossible choice. They can order the fleet to retreat under fire, which would look incredibly weak and humiliate the administration on the global stage. Or they can leave the fleet in the kill zone, risking a catastrophic direct hit on a flagship vessel. Neutral countries across the globe, from India to Brazil to emerging nations across Africa, are watching this reckless weaponization of military power. They are accelerating their move away from the US dollar. They are trading oil and goods in local currencies and the Chinese yuan to avoid becoming collateral damage in an unpredictable American war. Lawmakers are already sounding the alarm. Senator Mark Warner has publicly stated that extending a ship with a broken sewage system adds profound insult to injury. Experts are warning that by delaying critical maintenance, the Navy is creating a massive maintenance debt. This debt could take years to fix, potentially leaving the military without a working carrier when a real superpower conflict begins. The mechanical systems on board, like the electromagnetic launch system and the advanced arresting gear, have not had a deep maintenance cycle in over 8 months. Engineers are terrified of a catastrophic system failure during live combat operations. You cannot fight a long war with a broken sword. The internal infrastructure is literally falling apart. The administration believes sending a multi-billion-dollar supercarrier will intimidate the region into submission, but they fundamentally misunderstand the nature of the enemy. The proxies do not fight conventional wars. They fight wars of attrition. They do not need a decisive victory. They just need to wait. The world is watching a superpower march its own naval assets into a meat grinder for political theater. America is not projecting power right now. It is hemorrhaging it. Washington has walked blindly into a trap of its own making. The doors have just locked behind them. There is no easy way out, and the proxy forces waiting in the Red Sea have all the time in the world. We are one mechanical failure, one exhausted radar operator, or one hypersonic missile away from an event that will permanently rewrite the global order. The board is set. The pieces are moving, and the consequences are about to arrive.